Hey everyone, it's Ann from What's Up Homestead, and today we are going to can chicken. And I've got my 32 quart Presto canner, and I've got warm water in the bottom, and it has a fill line. If you use it enough, you'll have a natural fill line. And I filled it to the top of the line, and I'm going to put it on a simmer and get ready for my jars. Okay, I washed my lids and rings in the hot soapy dishwater, and I've got my jars cleaned up, and I've got them sitting here ready to go into the canner to keep warm. You don't have to wash them in the sink. You can wash them in the dishwasher. They do not have to be sterilized if they are processed for over 10 minutes. So I'm going to get them ready to put in the canner. Okay, now I'm going to put my rack at the bottom. You want the rack at the bottom because you don't want your jars to sit on the bottom of the pot because they can break really easily, especially with the heat that's going to be on the jars. So I'm going to put that down at the bottom, and then I'm going to start putting my jars in. Okay, I have 8-pint jars. That's what's going to fit in my canner, and I'm going to double stack. That means that I'm going to fill up these jars and put another rack in and put 8 more. You can't do these with quart jars, only pints. The quarts won't fit. So I'm going to start filling up my jars. Okay, I've got the jars warming. You want to make sure that the water is at a simmer. It is not supposed to boil. Okay, I had 2 family pack size chicken breasts, and I cut them up and they filled this whole bowl full. Okay, I'm going to take my chicken and put it in the jars. I'm only going to do 1 jar at a time. That is what is recommended. Put your chicken in the jar and take your liquid, whatever you're using. You can use water or broth, and I'm using bone broth. So I'm going to heat my broth to boiling, and then I'm going to keep it hot. You want to pour the hot liquid over the chicken. I'm going to be using the jar lifter. I've got a funnel. I've got this tool is to get the air out, and I'll show you how to use that in a moment. I've got a 1/2 teaspoon right here. You will put a 1/2 teaspoon of canning and pickling salt. You do not want to use any other kind of salt. This is iodine free, and it will prevent your food from discoloring. So you want to use salt for pickling and preserving. I also like to put a bowl down to keep my jar in so it'll cut down on the mess. And I've got a paper towel under here to kind of protect from between my stove and the countertop. Okay, I'm going to take my 1/2 teaspoon of salt and put that down in there. And then I'm going to pack my jar. You want to pack it down, but not too tight. You want the water to be able to, or the broth to penetrate. So you don't want to put it all the way up. There's a lip right there. You want it right there at the lip because that is 1 inch. They do have tools that you can use to gauge, but if it's just 1 inch, it is very easy to know where you have to go, and that is right at the lip. And you don't want to pack it too full. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put my hot broth into this measuring cup because it has a spout and it's easier to pour in there. And I'm going to pour the hot broth over the jar till I hit right there at the rim. And then I'm going to get my tool, and this is what I'm going to use to get the air out of it. So I'm going to push it down on the ends, and I'm going to pull back so I can let that air that is down there come out, and you'll see bubbles. And just kind of push your chicken back down. You don't want it above that line. So I'm gonna just push down anywhere I can and make sure all those air bubbles are out. And you might have to add more liquid. You may want to make sure that it's at that lip right there. So mine is pushed down, it's under the liquid. You want to make sure it's covered in the liquid. So now I'm going to wipe off the rim. I've had my lid and rings in some hot water. You don't have to do that anymore, but I still like to do it. And I'm just going to put my lid on there. I'm going to put my ring, and I'm just going to barely close it. You don't want it to be too tight, but you don't want it to be loose either. And they do sell tools for that. So that's my first jar. I'll do another one. This is going to go back into my canner to keep warm until I get all of the jars full. Okay, so I get another jar, hot jar, a teaspoon of salt, and put my chicken in. And I like to try to keep one hand that doesn't have chicken on it, just to make sure that I need to turn on the sink or do something and I don't have to wash both hands to do what I need to do. And sometimes the way it lays, you might have an open pocket down there. Just make sure that you push it down far enough to where it touches the glass. And you know, sometimes you might have a bigger piece than another, so when you get to the top, just kind of make sure that you're putting the bigger pieces on the bottom, but the smaller ones on top. Okay, so that one is done. Put some more broth on there. Sometimes you might want to kind of let it bubble up because sometimes it doesn't go all the way down. I'm gonna get my tool. I see it on here. Okay, there you go. So it's at the rim. I'm getting the air bubbles out. You can see the air bubbles from here. Just gonna do it for 10-15 seconds or so. Gonna push the chicken back down. Just make sure it's covered with the liquid. Okay, still looks good. I'm gonna wipe the rim. Get a lid and a ring. Put the jar on there. Just fingertip tight, as they call it, and put it in. Okay, since I'm doing 2 layers, I don't have a way to keep the other jars warm in the canner. So I just ran some really hot water, and I'm keeping my jars in here. So when I finish up the first layer, I'll have these jars in here nice and warm to fill up. Okay, so now I'm going to put my rack down on the jars, and I'm going to get my jars one at a time out of the hot water in the sink and start on my second layer. Okay, they're all loaded in my canner, so now I'm going to turn the heat up and I'm going to put my lid on. You'll see the V here and the V here, and you'll just line that up. Okay, the lid's on, and I'm just going to slide it till it meets that side and that side. So I turned up my heat, and you will see steam coming out of there in a bit when it starts to boil. You will wait for a steady stream, not just a little bit, but a full steady stream of steam come out. And when that happens, we'll start a timer for 10 minutes to get all the air out of the canner. Okay, I've had a steady stream for 10 minutes. Now I'm going to put on my weight. This pressure canner comes with a regulator, but I would but I would rather use the weight. So I've got 10-pound weight on here. When it starts coming under pressure, this thing will pop up, and we'll wait for our dial gauge to come around 10, and as soon as it gets to 10, you'll hear this start jiggling, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so you'll see this is up, so that means it's under pressure. And soon you'll start seeing the dial gauge go up. Okay, it's right on the 10 and the weight is starting to move. If you're using a weight, you go to 10, and if you're using the regulator that comes with your canner, then you will use the 11-pound. Okay, it's at 11 pounds of pressure, so I'm going to start my timer for 1 hour and 15 minutes. And I'm also going to back down the heat a little bit. I'm going to go just from an 8 to a 7. I just want to maintain that between 10 and 11 pounds of pressure. You do not want to go under 10 pounds or you'll have to start the whole process over, no matter how long the canner has been going. So just make sure you watch it very closely. So I'm going to wait until everything is done, and then I'll bring you back and show you the next step. Okay, the time's up. I'm going to turn off the heat, and I'm going to take the canner off the burner gently and set it over here on this burner. Okay, you will leave this alone. You will not touch it. Don't take the weight off. Don't do anything. Don't move it. This will have to come all the way down from pressure to 0. And you will know that when this thing goes down. That's when you know. And you'll also see that it's at 0. But it can be at 0 and this thing will still be popped up. So make sure you wait until that goes down. Then take your weight off. There won't be any steam. Take the weight off and wait 5 minutes before you open it. So we're going to wait until this comes down to pressure, and then we'll take the weight off, and in 5 minutes and we will open her up. Okay, I took it came down to pressure. I took off the weight and waited 5 minutes. So now I'm going to open it. So I'm going to lift it up and go that way. And lift it up, and I'm going to take it off and put it over here in my sink. Okay, I've got my towel down. This is where the jars are going to sit for the next 12 to 24 hours. So I'm going to grab a lid, and if there were water on the top, do not tilt the jars. Just lift them straight up and put them on the towel. That water will evaporate eventually, and they will still be boiling when they come out of the canner. Just be careful and don't disturb them very much. Okay, I'll take these all out and then we'll come back. Okay, here we are, 14 jars of chicken. And I will leave these on my counter to cool for 12 to 24 hours. And then when the time is up, I will remove the rings. I will wash the jars. I will write chicken on the top and the date I canned them. And they will be good on my shelf for at least a year. This is the ultimate convenience food. There are so many ways you can use this chicken. I love to make it in chicken salad. It also makes great chicken and dumplings and chicken pies. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you will can some chicken yourself. It is really quick and easy, and I hope this helped.